First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. As I was telling people earlier, council members don't get into a lot of glamorous, fun projects. Normally we deal with sewage lift stations and landfills and things like that. So this is a very exciting project for me. I want to take a minute to recognize our elected officials. We had Senator Pat Connick right here to our left. Mayor Deano. Representative Turner. He's in the back. Representative Turner. And Parish President Tim Goulon. Judge Zaney's in the room too. Remember Judge Zaney in the room somewhere. Back there. Thank y'all for being here. Just a quick housekeeping measures. There are bathrooms in the very back and in the very front here, so you can go either direction. I'm so excited to have one here tonight. I got to give all the credit to Senator Connick. He started this project long before I took office. I just picked up the ball from him. But it's something that the state and the parish have been working on jointly for several years now. And it's finally come to fruition. The walking trail, under construction. We have the festival park under construction, under design, and that's a lot of the stuff you're going to hear tonight. Bruce Richards is our planning consultant at Archdiocese, and he's going to take over the presentation from here. I'm sorry, Neil, I'll hold it. I was told to hold 2 microphones. I'm sorry, 2 microphones.
You ready? Yep. All right, thank you very much. We got them both? Okay. Again, my name is Bruce Richards with NY Associates. I've also got my compatriot over here, Michael Buisson. He's the head of the architecture department of NY. I run the planning department. And I want to thank all y'all for coming out on this nice night. Hear a little bit about the Hope Haven site program and master site plan we've been working on for about a year now. Wrong way. There we go. Brief agenda for tonight. Introductions. Deano started that for me. Thank you very much, Deano. We'll go through a real brief history of Hope Haven from its beginnings to where we are now. We'll then talk about what we're doing under this master plan process. We'll look at the different improvements to date and some future improvements planned, and you've probably seen those on the boards along the side. We'll kind of go through them and give you a little more explanation. And then we'll just take your questions and comments and answer them as best we can, write notes down, so that we can really get some public input on this process. Okay, brief history of Hope Haven. It was established in 1925 by Father Peter Wijnhoven. He was a transplanted Dutch priest, and he founded Hope Haven to shelter and educate orphans. It was a great project. It was envisioned as a residential youth facility. It had its own self-sustaining dairy farm, and Senator Connick has a connection to that. One of his ancestors came over, I believe, from Holland as well, to help run the dairy farm. It also provided vocational training for the boys who were a little bit older than 14. And the land for Hope Haven was secured back in 1922. And the first buildings they constructed were in 1925, and they included the one you see before you, the Dibert Administration Building. And that had the classrooms, the refectory, like a cafeteria, the dorms, and the industrial school. And there were those 2 cottages that you see across the street that flank the Dibert Administration Building. Again, beautiful architecture. In 1929, near the back of the main building, 2 large wings were added to it. Each one had its own dorms, dining areas, and study and recreation halls. But what's interesting is when you get in there, and I had the pleasure of doing so with the Senator and Councilman Bonano, is that they're kind of C-shaped, mirror images of each other, and they create these 2 beautiful courtyards. Each of those have tile fountains, and you can see on the picture on the right what they look like. Later on, Sanger Gymnasium was added just 1 year later, 1930. That's it on the left. Beautiful building with what we like to call the Romeo, kind of tower or balcony, Rapunzel Tower. And then in 1931, the Marcus Feingold Mechanical and Fine Arts Building, where 12 different trades were taught, that was completed. Now, a couple of years after that, Madonna Manor, where we are right now, across Barataria Drive from the Hope Haven campus, was built, and then accommodated more students, including some girls and all the students from the Chinchuba Institute for the Deaf. It also catered more towards the younger students. Hope Haven was more for those students past 14. In the old days, once you were around 14, it was, some kids went on to high school, some kids went on to training, etc. So Madonna Manor was more geared towards the youngers, and Hope Haven was more towards the older children. But as you can see from these pictures and from the architecture you see around you inside this building and the buildings outside, they continue that Spanish colonial revival style, just the same as Hope Haven. Now, in the years past, I mean, these functioned as the orphanages for quite a while, but you know, after a while, they were no longer operated as orphanage, and that ceased. Now, the buildings on both campuses were then used for other purposes, both on the Hope Haven side and the Madonna Manor side. Madonna Manor has had a lot of active uses in recent years. You're sitting in one of them now. This is the Pace Adult Daycare Center. They also had Cafe Hope, which is a program for at-risk use where they had a garden and a restaurant. But the Hope Haven campus over the last few years have been mostly vacant, and as a result, the buildings and the grounds had fallen into very serious disrepair. The picture on the left is the interior of the Sanger Gymnasium. As you can see, holes in the roof, terrible condition of the floor, and that's what those courtyards look like the first time I saw them. They've since been cleared. This is the courtyards at that Dibert building. But good news came, and it's still on its way. In 2016, the parish entered into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Archdiocese, and they allowed the parish to lease the Hope Haven site for 99 years, and that's essentially forever in real estate parlance, at a nominal cost, and they wanted to support the revitalization of the campus. Now, Senator Pat Connick over here and the parish, they've been able to obtain some capital outlay funds to help in this revitalization effort. And so far with these funds, the stabilization and fortification of the Feingold building has been completed. It's also currently underway at the Dibert Administration Building. We call it stabilization fortification. Prevents rain. They go through it, make sure there's no more rotten wood, remove the rotten wood, make sure it's still structurally sound, fix roofs and things like that, so that basically someone could come in as a tenant and refinish it to their needs. The interior pictures of the Feingold building are present right here. That middle one's like an old courtyard, which they turned in kind of like a gymnasium. And here's some pictures of Dibert underway. Excuse me. There's a courtyard there on the left. And as you can see, they're getting down to the floor level and the joist, make sure what's still solid and what needs replacement and what needs fixing. Okay, just to sum up, Jefferson Parish is actively working to continue the revitalization of the campus. Any proposed use, though, of this Hope Haven site, because of the 99-year lease with the Archdiocese, must be approved by the Archdiocese. Now, this Madonna Manor site on this side of Barataria is not included in the 99-year lease. We're only dealing with the west side of the campus, west side of Barataria. And at the present time, the Sanger Gymnasium is not included in the lease. We'd like to try to get it included, but it's not included at the present time. Okay, so what are we doing right now in terms of this program and master plan? Well, first off, we're developing a site program and developing a master site plan. Well, what's a site program? Some things were actually underway before my firm got involved. Some uses and associated improvements, mainly the new fitness trail. I'm not sure if you've seen it there on the south side of the Hope Haven campus. It's almost complete. They've got some plants out there getting ready for landscaping. Probably have an opening pretty soon. Now, then based upon the input from Councilman Bonano's office and the Citizen Stakeholder Task Force and some other feedback from the general public, we started to develop a conceptual program of uses for Hope Haven, for the property and the buildings, the existing buildings, and perhaps even new buildings. The preliminary ideas we talked about when we met as the stakeholders and with the councilman, and we got from the public, was health and fitness, senior services, maybe a new community center building, medical education, something that generally we want to do something more in the public realm, something for health and wellness. So medical education. Youth programs, possibly YMCA partnership. Outdoor entertainment and events, possibly an amphitheater of some sort. Maybe wedding reception and other event venues, and the possibility of ancillary retail or restaurant, not necessarily as a prime focus, but something related to the public uses that will be present there. And also a natatorium or aquatic center. That came about from our discussions. Now, after early meetings with stakeholders, we came up, kind of refined it and had a general program for the Hope Haven site. Expansion of the fitness trail to encompass the whole site. The current fitness trail is just on the south side as a small loop. We'd like to kind of make it bigger and utilize all the trees and the beautiful oak alley, which is present behind the administration building. Maybe even some features such as the fountain in front of the administration building. Make a much larger loop. Renovating and converting the old pool house. There's a pool, an old pool, which has been filled in right behind the administration building. There's a pool house, with showers and restrooms and stuff. We'd like to maybe convert that into a concession area with restrooms, and where the pool's filled in, that'd be like a deck. You can have outdoor seating, and people can come take a walk along the walking paths on the fitness trail and maybe stop for a cup of coffee afterwards, or a glass of water, or maybe a Gatorade or whatever. And it'd be a beautiful opportunity to redevelop that old pool house, which is beautiful, again, Spanish architecture, to primarily serve users of the fitness trail. The big one, I think is a big one, in fact it's probably one of the bigger ones in terms of area, is directly behind the administration building, the idea of doing a concert meadow facility. If you've ever been over to Lafreniere Park, you've probably seen the Copeland stage in the Copeland concert meadow. This would be something similar, but I'd like to think a little bit nicer is what we're going for. A bigger, nicer stage. There's a semicircular area behind that, which is ringed by oak trees. We were talking about perhaps building a berm and making it really nice, and being able to hold different types of little concerts there. Everything in plays or what, just entertainment venue primarily for the West Bank. And then finally, as we mentioned, a new aquatic swim center, which would cover a lot of areas. Recreational use, just basically going swimming, indoor or outdoor. We could use it for teaching swimming, drown proofing, as they say. It's something that's needed. Water training, not just for regular people, but also for first responders. We could use the large pool and the deep area where they might have a diving board for subsurface training. And this also holding swim meets. It's very limited in town, the different locations where you can hold swim meets, and we thought this would be a great opportunity to build something like that. Jefferson Parish only has one public swimming facility in the entire parish right now, so we think this was needed. Also, we wanted to preserve a lot of the green space, have some open meadows and different areas where you can just walk around and appreciate nature, but also it's like kind of a festival grounds where you can hold events, maybe like Haws for the Cause or things of that sort. And then finally, we talked about those existing buildings. We've already moved towards fortification and strengthening these, and in the case of dye, but also remediation, it did have some asbestos in it. We wanted to adaptively reuse those and have tenants come in, maybe clinics, medical education, senior services, arts education. We could lease these out and recoup our investment, again, with a 99-year lease that the parish has. If it's an approved use by the Archdiocese, you can get somebody to come in and to finish it off the way they need it and to use it for different types of things that will help the public. And again, though, any use that is put on the Hope Haven has to be approved by the Archdiocese. Now, that's the program. Now, to develop the master site plan, we didn't just go out there and put pencil to paper. We had to do some work. First off, our engineers utilized existing plans. They went out in the field. They used maps, any readily available data to look at the infrastructure. Where's the water? Where's the sewer within the site? It's a large site. So we need to know where all the water and sewer was that connected to these buildings and where it went. So that we could identify and lay out any infrastructure improvements that are going to be needed with any future buildings or future facilities. Planners like myself, we work with the parish to determine if there's any zoning changes necessary. Looks like it isn't. The site actually has two different zoning classifications. The north has one and the south has the other, a different one. But we looked into that and made sure that the general idea of the program fit in with what we're looking at. We also analyzed what the parking requirements would be for each of these uses and kind of started dealing with that in terms of how much parking we would have. We did an analysis for the planning department for that. The architects and the planners, Michael and myself and his staff, did analysis of the aquatic center to make sure it was the right size. We look at examples elsewhere, using a 50-meter pool and the size that we would need to put in there and where it could be located. To meet all those needs, we envision. And then finally, mostly the architects, with some input from me, they sketched the site plans, which you've seen on the boards and we'll see in just a minute, in coordination with all these program uses. And they included location of individual uses on the site, along with new buildings, new roadways, new parking, new walkways, and any new landscaping. So let's kind of walk through those. These are I'm going to walk you through the same ones that are on the board right there very quickly. This one right here is just the site before anything was done. This is a 2019 aerial site. You see the Fine Gold Center kind of the center, and the main building to the right, just a little bit below it. And in the back, just below that pool, would be where the Sanger Gymnasium is. And you can see Archbishop Shaw's football field right there. Okay. Again, the first thing that was undertaken was the Fine Gold Center, the stabilization and fortification. That's been complete. Someone could go in there, finish off whatever work, tenant finish, put up sheetrock, and do whatever they wanted to it in terms of lighting and everything else, and lease it. But right now, it is fortified. It's not going to get worse. Next thing, which if you drive by and see, is the first phase of the fitness trail, new parking lot, playground, new fitness center, restrooms, landscaping to go along with it. It's, basic loop, but that's a start. And that's almost complete. Again, there's some landscaping that's starting right now. Next thing, which is also underway, is the main building, the Dibert Administration Building. Remediation, again, it did have some asbestos. Stabilization and fortification, that's still underway. The next thing, which is the things that are in design and engineering. An extension of the fitness trail, again, covering the entire campus, goes underneath that semicircle of oaks between the administration building and the gymnasium. And all around, it comes around and actually connects to the sidewalk by the fountain down in front of the administration building, and all links together. And the next idea, which we're just starting the engineering and architecture for, is the concert meadow. As I mentioned before, we would under this program, we would renovate the old pool house. We'd build a stage, which you see on the bottom of the concert meadow venue. We would kind of gradually berm up the land towards the rear, so that if you came out there with your folding chairs or your picnic blanket, if you were a little further back, you'd be a little higher. It'd be better for views of looking at the stage. And we wouldn't do any of that underneath the canopy of the oaks. It would all be, in front of the canopy of the oaks. We'd also have some pavilions near the back property line, some pavilions for concession stands. People would come in with their concessions. Some of them would be on just pads, and they could bring their own canopies or tents. Some of them would be on pavilion. And the last thing, if you look on the very north, that kind of triangular-shaped area to the left side of the Sanger Gym, a design very similar, almost the same as the current pool house, would be a restroom facility. This is being done more or less by Shaw and Shaw's property. But through a cooperative endeavor kind of agreement, memorandum of understanding, it could be available for Shaw football games, things like that. And then when there's events at this concert meadow venue, they would control the gates, and it'd be another restroom facility for the concert meadow. Depending on the crowds expected, you might have to bring in some portalettes, but between the concession stand with its restrooms and that restroom facility, we'd probably have pretty good restroom coverage. The next improvement would be once these buildings are leased, predominantly the Dibert building and the Feingold building, we don't know what kind of use it's going to be. We're envisioning maybe like medical education or something like that, or community centers, things. But they're going to need parking. As you know, this was an orphanage, and orphans don't generally have a lot of cars, so parking really wasn't that needed. When these things get used as a future use, there's going to be a lot more parking. They'll also need some parking, for the concert meadow venue that we can share it with Shaw. But we've located parking in the best areas we could. There's currently, I don't have a pointer with me and my hands are full, right in this area right here, there's a more modern kind of 70s looking house type building there. We would look at perhaps try to see about demolishing that and putting parking in the front, though it would be screened by some new planting or hedges right in here, right in that area, so that you wouldn't necessarily see it from Barataria Boulevard. But new roadways, new parking. There's one more parking lot to come, but as it stands right now with our plans, we're looking at about 250 parking spots total. The last parking lot would come right there up on the left of the Aquatic Center. And the Aquatic Center is the last major improvement. It's about 4,800 square feet building, have an outdoor pool as well, and a splash area pool to the left of that. Indoor pools, with 50-meter lanes, diving well for diving competitions, and again, bleachers so you could hold swim meets there. So finally, that's all the improvements, and just to kind of pull them all together and make it all the same, this is what it would look like when it was finished. That's our artistic rendering of it. Another possibility is the land up in the upper left of the picture, where there's still some woods back there. That finger of land goes back a little further, and it is owned by the parish, I believe. And there's a potential for doing a woodlands walking trail extension right up in this area. Right up there. Oop, there, right up in there. But that's the general plan for the site, and we think it's a good plan. And we're looking to see, though, what are your comments and questions that you have about it, and we'll try to answer them as best we can, either myself or Senator Connick or Councilman Bonano. Any comments or questions?
I'm just curious.
Yes, sir. Here.
My voice is loud enough. Okay. The echo, it would be just horrible.
Okay, go ahead.
Has there been a 501(c) organization set up, or is it allowed by law to set one up to help fund this? Or don't, I mean, it's contributions for people like you.
You can answer that.
The question was, have we established a 501c3 to be able to provide some funding toward this? We have not yet, but we're all working with the Jefferson Community Foundation looking at that. We also have our attorneys looking at creating what's called a public benefits corporation, and that public benefits corporation would actually operate and oversee the facility. They can do so in a manner much more efficiently than the government itself it can. They have much simpler rules when it comes to purchasing, hiring, and firing, and those things. So that's all in the works simultaneous with the master planning process. Did that answer your question?
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Again, we'll be here afterwards if there's any other questions. If you want to just talk to me one-on-one, I'll be hanging out here. Yeah, no, go ahead. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you, and I'll repeat the question for the taping.
Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment.
Okay, great.
So I'm with the Jefferson Convention of Visitors Bureau, and I'm actually here representing my Peter.
Yeah, if you could take the mic. Yeah,
Why don't I just talk?
that's it. Thank you.
Two?
Yeah.
Um,
One for him and one for the
So I'm with the Jefferson Convention of Visitors Bureau, and we're excited about an aquatic center that could host events that are championship events, tournaments that come into our community. One of the benefits to that is the tourism revenue that's generated when our visitors come in and stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants and attend our unique social and leisure events that we have. Now, Jefferson Parish hotels generate about $25 million a year in tax revenue to support our state. That tax revenue eases the burden of our state taxes individually in this room by $500 to $600 a year. In addition to that, about half of that money comes back to Jefferson Parish to support our streets, our schools, our sewage and water plants, as well as other things that it supports. That being said, let's talk about a swimming traveler. The swimming sports traveler is more affluent than almost any other sports traveler. Through our research, we've discovered that's the visitor we want in our community. They spend more money. They generate more tax revenue. In addition to that, sports travel is one of the fastest growing segments in the U.S., and it is anticipated to reach $77 billion in spend by 2026, and we definitely want a piece of that. So that being said, it is also a pandemic-resistant travel. During COVID, yes, there was an impact, but it rebounded quicker than any other travel that there was in our community. They started traveling back within 6 months, albeit at smaller numbers, but we still had tax revenue coming in. And finally, we're a water community, right? We have miles of bayous and rivers and lakes, and that gives us every reason to be the premier destination. Jefferson Parish should be the destination for water sports in the state of Louisiana. That's all I've got.
Great comment. Thank you very much. Well said. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I've never used 2 microphones before. I'm Jennifer Steele-Bourgeois, and I'm the chairwoman of the PACE Board of Directors, so I'm thrilled to see all of you in the PACE building today. But I have a comment or thought for the future for those services for senior citizens. Perhaps you've given consideration for some type of shuttle services, because it's very difficult for seniors to get to things. And I'm on several boards, and that's the one concern I hear from senior citizens is lack of transportation to get to services and programs that they would benefit from. So just thought for the future, some type of shuttle services for the campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good comments. Next. Back to you. Back to you. Yes, ma'am. Here you go. Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, I'm Pat LeBlanc, and I'm here tonight with a couple of people from the Jefferson Community Foundation, Philip Rebo, who's the current chairman, and Gordon Wadge, who also sits on our board. And I just wanted to take a moment to say that we're excited. The Jefferson Community Foundation has been working with Councilman Bonano for, I don't know, do you know how long? It's been several years. Yeah. So, and Senator Connick, I wanted to thank both of you publicly for your cooperation and your interest in continuing to work with us. We really see the Aquatic Center as a way for us to kind of even the playing field for Jefferson's children when compared to other parishes. I would tell you, unfortunately, what we discovered when we started with the only pool, the one public pool that the parish has, that there was just really very, very little that was available to Jefferson's children. Meanwhile, in the city, they have, I think, 20 pools, 20 public pools. 4 of them are large size and covered. St. Bernard just built a natatorium. St. James built a natatorium. All, you know, the competition within the state is, and within our region is pretty strong. And then when you take Louisiana and start comparing it. I just was in Georgia at a swim meet. Just one county had 4 full-size, gorgeous natatoriums. This is going to take some work and some dedication from a lot of people, but with people like those I've mentioned here today, I think we'll get there. And I can tell you, in terms of offering this community healthy ways to exercise and to maintain their mobility, swimming is clearly a good choice. So thanks very much. Thank you, Bruce, and Deano and Pat, thank you all very, very much.
Good comments. I appreciate them. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, both of them? My name is Ruth Otan, and actually I live in this neighborhood, and I have nieces and nephews who are on swim teams and grandchildren that are in those travel sports things, and I really do see the potential for what you all are planning. I think it's excellent, and I hope it comes to fruition soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody in the back? Okay. I'll get you too.
So you have to understand that the parish has use of the west side of the campus, but the Archdiocese still has use of the east side of the campus. And Judge Zaney, you want to come talk about some of your little ideas for this side? While he's doing that, I forgot to mention Pamela Watson's here representing Councilman Byron Lee's office, and I want to thank the Archdiocese for allowing us to use this facility. For anyone who doesn't know this well-known gentleman, this is Judge Jay Zaney, but he's also very active in the Archdiocese and what's going to go on this side, the east side of the campus.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you very much for your leadership and your vision, and especially to you, Senator Connick, for all that you've done for this community. You know, Senator Connick was married here, right? And so there's a strong history of love. I know a number of people that we've met here tonight are neighbors like you, and they've wanted to see, and they've seen this buildings in their heyday, and of course they've seen what has happened, and we're very excited. And what I love, Councilman, what you were saying and what you all are doing is we are developing with Notre Dame Health Systems, which is with the Archdiocese of New Orleans, St. Andrew's Village, which is a faith-based long-term living community for adults with special needs. And that's what we will be doing on this side. And at one time we had envisioned swimming and amphitheater and all that, so it's going to be wonderful, and I look forward to working with the parish on corroborating with them, and it's going to be a win-win, because what we want for our villagers is for members of the community to come visit us. We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be an institution. And for this beautiful complex right across the street is a win-win, and with PACE right here, it's going to give a lot of meaning to a number of the senior citizens who are going to work with our villagers. So we want to thank you, Councilman, for your leadership in this, and we're very excited about the future and the prospects and the partnership. And Senator Connick, as you know, we're very indebted to you for everything. Thank you all.
So I think you'll kind of get the idea that it's our vision, myself, the senator, and all the community, that Hope Haven is going to become the center on the West Bank of Jefferson Parish for health and fitness, for all ages, our youngest to our oldest. So we want that campus to be used by everyone. And know he touched on it a little bit. So the two main buildings, or our vision for that is to lease those out and use the lease proceeds to pay for the maintenance of the facility, cut the grass, keep the lights on, and go on that. Because as we stand right now, there is no parish budget to maintain the things that we build. We're certainly going to get the funds to build them, but you also have to be able to maintain them. So that's our vision. So we're going to be working with the YMCA and others on grant opportunities to match the parish dollars and the state dollars that we have available to build some of these things and maintain them. So before we conclude tonight, anyone have any other questions? So the plan going forward is, as I said, to look at what structure of an organization that we need to oversee it, public benefits corporation, a 501c3, a parish department, et cetera. And once we make that determination and put that organization in place, the next process would be to look at how do we go about leasing the two buildings. The other things are in progress. Phase 2 of the walking trail is under design. The amphitheater and the festival park is under design. We're looking at conceptual designs for the natatorium. So all of those things are in play right now. So it's a puzzle that's slowly having its pieces filled in, but we're very confident we're going to accomplish this in the next few years. I saw another hand, yes, sir.
We often hear about these billionaires that are giving away their money for worthy projects. Has there been any effort to get outside of the scope of Jefferson Parish and try to get some grants? It's out there.
Right. No, the question is, have we taken this concept outside of the parish to attain grant money? No, we haven't. Here's why. Because you have to have a plan first. You have to have something to show them. So that's why this was such a major step for us, to finalize this plan, so then we can begin to market it to those who may want to give us grant dollars, to help us build a swimming pool, and all the other things we got to do. So that's why this is an important step. Because they want to see, what are you going to do there? They want to see something concrete that they can touch, that they can read. And so that's why this will be our next step.
Very good.
Yep. Yes, Phil?
The next step is for getting this out for policy development after plans are finalized, and which your best guess is time frame right now?
Time frame, the question is what time frame as far as what step? So we got to put some type of organization in place to run it. I mean, right now we have the Jefferson Parish Recreation Department overseeing it. So once we get that mechanism in place, we hope to do that this year, then everything else will begin to fall in place very rapidly. So hopefully we'll have that organization developed and established before the end of the year, and we're prepared to move forward. But we're not, as you can tell, we're not waiting on that to get things designed and constructed. Anyone else? No.
First, again, I want to repeat thanking Senator Connick and Deano and your tenacity to stay with it for the many years. I go back to Archbishop Shaw. As a teacher, and as a parish president, I gave the 100-year certificate to the Hope Haven residents, because that's how it's all started. But to me, this is one of the most valued assets in Jefferson Parish. And I think Deano mentioned the fact that any green space we have with walking trails, people congregate, we walk. and it generates a lot of activity, a lot of positive activity. In this case, we're going beyond just the fitness side, looking at other possible uses that would attract people. So, you know, I was part of the master plan in Lafayette Park. I was part of many things, and those facilities are used to the max. I suspect that right off the get-go, we'll be using this facility for walking, for many, many other. So kudos and appreciate the public support, those that are here today, because I'm pleasantly surprised by the number of people. And again, I thank you guys for your leadership.
So in the next 30 to 60 days, we're going to be cutting the ribbon on the walking trail, so you will be walking, and I invite everyone to come out when we make that announcement to come cut the ribbon with us. Anyone else? Thank you all so much for being here. As you can see, there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm about this project. Again, I want to thank Senator Connick for his vision. This was his baby, and he fought this all the way through it and made it happen. So thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.